The shocking final scoreline at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta between the United States and Panama. An absolute crazy game. Weston McKennie with a goal disallowed very early on. You thought the U.S. might roll over Panama at that moment, and then everything changed in the 18th minute. Tim Weah gets a red card. The U.S. reduced to 10 men. 4 minutes after that, Valerian Balogun scoring an absolute banger to make it 1-0 U.S. Panama quickly equalizing through Blackman in the 26th minute. We would go into the second half, and it would stay 1-1 late into the second half. Fajardo getting a goal for Panama to put them up 2-1. Carrasquillo eventually sent off for the Panamanians. And the game finishes 2-1 Panama, 10 versus 10. I feel like, Kasey, we got to start with our reaction to the Tim Weah red card, because that's where this game is decided, isn't it?
It's 100% decided. It's truly, one of those moments that you just don't understand how a player with the professionalism that Tim had. Look, we all know players that are crazy and do crazy things. And even then we say, what is this person thinking? But here's a guy that's kind of a level-headed player, obviously tons of family history in the game, kind of knows how things work, and then to get sucked into this at this point in this match, to put your team under that kind of distress for no reason, it's really unforgivable, and it makes it even harder because of the player who did it isn't that kind of player, and you don't understand how that happens at this level at that point in time. And it does. It just threw everything we talked about before that match on its head, because that whole thing changed with that ridiculous decision from Tim.
How big of an impact did it have on the game, Allie?
Yeah, a huge impact, because then you have to change the type of personnel possibly out on the field and the formation, especially they went immediately in this defensive 5-back and then attacking. They tried to push the outside backs a little bit forward into wing backs, but it changes everybody's ability to just play freely and to continue to work on, the performance that they had previously against Bolivia. And that was what the U.S. wanted to do, because they knew that this could have been potentially a win. We knew the injuries that Panama was suffering, and it just was unfortunate that the U.S. couldn't start off on the foot that they wanted to, with that confidence, that intensity. The whole game changed, and then your mindset changes, the mentality changes, and then the principles have to change, and the ideas in the game. And so, yes, it's tough. I think it was really stupid. And at this level, that can't happen, especially in a tournament like this, where the U.S. could have won and then comfortably have already been in the quarterfinals and into the next round. And now they have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what could happen next.
Really stupid, unforgivable? I mean, even that doesn't seem that harsh in this moment, does it, Herc?
It doesn't. And quite frankly, you should learn from the first time this happened. This happened in Trinidad and Tobago with Serginho Dest. And you had Matt Turner, you had Tim Ream giving it to Serginho Dest in front of everybody. How boneheaded that was, how stupid that was. Kasey speaks about the pedigree this player has. He should know better. What he did is not only unforgivable, it may cost this team. They may get grouped because of this decision. This isn't a case where Panama outplays you 11v11, where you make mistakes individually. Greg Berhalter decides tactically something wrong, makes a different type of change that he should have made. No. This is one play decides the game. It's hard enough playing 11v11. Now to play a man down for over an hour. I don't know how Tim Weah is going to look at those guys in the face in that locker room. I would be ruined if I was Tim Weah in that locker room. I would not want to see anybody.
Yep.
It's unforgivable. It may cost him in the eyes of the fans, that coaching staff, his players. It may be a while until he gains that respect and that confidence back. This could be the single most stupidest play that I've seen in quite some time in U.S. men's national team modern history. It really is, for what it cost you, what it will cost you.
What do you say, or what do you think of a teammate in this situation? Do you stay away? Do you immediately engage? How do you address it in the dressing room?
Well, it depends on how they are as an individual and their character. I would have to know the teammate, obviously, and if I know them really well, I would have a good understanding of if I give them space or if we address it immediately. But I think initially you give them space, you let them, they know what they've done. Tim Weah knows that wasn't smart. You could see it as soon as he walked off the field. As soon as it was done, he knew. And so in those moments, one bad decision can change the entire game and trajectory of your team. And so I'm sure he feels the weight of that. And as your team, teammates, you have to rally around him again. You can't just leave him out to die and hopefully have himself pick him up alone. This is a team. This is the brotherhood. This is what they've always talked about. They're going to come back together. They only can control what they're able to control. So now they have to come out against Uruguay and really perform and really keep this team together. And this is unfortunate, but you have to rally around and you have to get everybody back on track and back in on focus for the next round.
The red card happens in the 18th minute. There's a whole game to be played after the red card. Obviously, it's a massive impact, but how do we judge the other 10 guys and the manager for their reaction to the red card, especially taking note, Kasey, that they had a lead?
Yep.
Valerian Balogun hits an absolute banger 4 minutes after Weah goes off, and suddenly, yes, it's a curse to be down a man, but you've been handed this lifeline, this gift of a 1-0 lead.
I think that's the difficult part is you go from 1-0 up. Not then you think, okay, let's just grind out a 0-0. You go from 1-0 up. Now, the Panama equalizer was very fortunate.
But it came 4 minutes later.
True.
4 minutes later.
4 minutes or 4 minutes into stoppage time doesn't really matter. In the end of it wasn't managed well. They got a little fortunate for the goal, yes, to the equalizer. But then even the draw's not the end of the world. And then I was very disappointed with the way the U.S. held the ball up at times, the way they combined, the way they slowed things down. It almost felt like they were saying, we're going to get our opportunity to get a winner. Not like, hey, let's just be a little bit smart about this and understand what a point means in comparison to now having to go beat a very good Uruguay team to guarantee yourself a way to go through. A point you still can have a lot of connotations. We're talking about in the green room going, okay, what's going to happen here? Okay, now goal difference comes into play and what happens with Bolivia and Panama and all this, but now you're really looking at it going, because of how poorly they managed it 1-1, now you got to go in and beat an Uruguay team to go through. I mean, it's what we were thinking before this game started, what even the first 10, 15 minutes with the goal being called back, we're looking at it going, the U.S. has really started the game well, things can go, and then all of a sudden just a moment of lunacy, and all of a sudden, to Herc's point, you have a very, very good chance of not going out of the group stage against two opponents that you comfortably should have won. Mm-hmm. Now, we said Panama. We talked about this. We talked about it after the Bolivia game. Panama is not Bolivia. Panama has a better physical presence. They can cause you more problems than Bolivia can. But you have to match the attitude first, and the attitude let them down with a silly red card, and then they couldn't recover from it.
You know what's troubling is you can get yourself behind the 8 ball, and you've got to tactics go out the window in terms of what you were going to do 11v11 once that red card hits. It's an hour that you're going to have to spend, and you're going to have to fight, you're going to have to claw, you're going to have to be there for each other. But it's how you react, and there weren't enough good individual performers today. And Anthony Robinson, who was one of the best players on the field versus Bolivia, alongside Christian Pulisic, and this game was very poor. In a game where you don't need to come out playing and try to possess the ball, if you're under so much pressure, get rid of it. He doesn't. He gives it right back to Panama. It's circumstantial in the amount of errors that then happened for the go-ahead goal, but just the little things. And it was like that all day. And I'm not asking the U.S. men's national team to outpossess Panama, because it wasn't even close. It was 76% to 24%. I'm not asking them to be better than them in the fight or in the spirit. I'm asking them to be smarter. Cameron Carter-Vickers comes into this game, 2 very, very unnecessary times that he tackled the ball, that he leaves his feet, and gives the referee a reason to call something, a reason to suspect that this could be a penalty kick. And in one of those, he calls a penalty kick. Just be smarter. Greg Berhalter, I can say this may not be on Greg Berhalter, but then we go back to the Tyler Adams minute count. Mm-hmm. That arrogance of saying, I can manage these minutes against a lesser opponent, and it comes back to bite you.
Yeah.
You got to take him out. You know, you
Not
can't
only do
count
you
on
have to take him out, but at the end of the game, when you're losing 2-1, you've got Brendan Aronson, Haji Wright. You've got a ton of guys on that bench who could help you get another goal.
You can't
and
use them.
you don't have a sub because you burned it on a guy you knew was only going to play 45 or 60. So let's focus on Greg Berhalter then. Because we can point at the team around Tim Weah and say, well, they were naive in how they handled the last hour of this game. But Kasey is the manager, not naive. He didn't make a change at the red card. He left those guys on, and then clearly at the half, he's saying, okay, now I got to make major changes. But he left that crew out there to kind of fend for themselves for a half hour that he probably didn't have to. If he was really ready to make a change, he could have made it at 20 and not at the half.
Yes and no. I mean, I think in hindsight, it's always easy. But I think at the time, I have no problem leaving some of my better individual players.
We talked about it in the green room. You thought he should have left Gio Reyna on?
I thought he should have at that stage.
I thought you get a worker in there.
Well, not yet, because I still think and another reason why is because of the point you just made. You already know you have to take Tyler Adams off. So if you got to take Tyler Adams off, you then can't make that sub at that stage unless you're taking Tyler Adams off at that point. So I think you had an opportunity to leave some of your individual players that maybe could skip past somebody, win a free kick, do something like that. And those two players were what he tried to do is put Gio on the right then.
Right.
And then have Christian on the left and see if you could find that outlet pass to maybe beat somebody and see if you could do something. Yeah. But the U.S. didn't handle the ball well enough from out of the back to be able to relieve that pressure to get the ball to those guys often enough to be able to do that. So I don't have a problem with going to halftime and then making some decisions. I do agree with you 100% on the decision to play a guy in a game that mattered so much that you already had a count on him.
What's strange here is Greg Berhalter, and trust me, I am no apologist for Greg Berhalter, and this is, for my money, more on Timothy Weah than it is on Greg Berhalter, but I've never seen the U.S. men's national team go to a back three. I've never seen them revert at any point in time to three center backs. And when you're a man down, you go to three center backs. You revert to that back three. Maybe they've worked on it, but we've never seen it in a competitive game. That, to me, is trouble. You've got to go simple. You've got to go basic. You've got to say, this is roll up your sleeves. This is try to keep the ball out of the back of the net. This is all going to poop because this red card really, put us in the shedder. You've got to be smarter, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
Wood shedder.
Yes, the wood shedder. Okay, the wood chipper. I was wondering which idioma we were going in there.
Yes.
I thought Musso could have been a good option.
Right,
They
to
wanted
keep
to
the
do
ball.
a direct, just to keep the ball, but also box-to-box midfielder. You're going to get a defensive-minded player in there that can also just do the dirty work that I think was needed in that moment. And so that was a surprise to me that he didn't choose that.
What do you think of the reaction overall from the team to the red card? Because it's obviously you sensed it was a moment of shock to the group.
Yeah, I saw that they immediately, heads kind of went down a little bit, but they got organized into the shape that they needed to get organized in. They looked a little bit uncomfortable, like they didn't really know how to adjust. And then, I just feel like the subs weren't necessarily good enough. Also, having Vickers kind of come in and then you have a 5-back, but you're not really focused on keeping that consistent and compact enough to get you, still the tie. And so I was a bit confused on how that, changed the game or, they were trying to adjust and the mentality just didn't seem like it was there to really try to get that point.
Bella, you made a point in the green room that even on the second goal, there's 3 defenders to 2 attackers, and the attacker beats to the near post. Mm-hmm. And there's a point when, to your point, I didn't see, because we've all known teams that just know how to suffer. Did you see winning the odd second ball, winning that clearance, smashing stuff out, doing stuff? It always seemed tentative. It always seemed like we're not comfortable in this role.
The second ball
really
seemed
rolling
to fall
the sleeves up to
Panama
fight.
a lot, but how much of that is just the fact that they were a man up?
They were a man up,
and that was
a
I mean the convincingness of the first clearance.
Yeah.
Herc made that point earlier that it's like
On the goal, Anthony Robinson
yes,
doesn't clear.
like when the point comes and you're thinking, okay, you see that pride of that 30-yard headed clearance or that smash the ball up, step the line up, press when the time. There was times when even Ali was saying in the green room, step up, get a little tighter, get a little stronger, get a little. And it just seemed like it was reactive. And I know you can't be ultra proactive when you're a man down, but you have to be in that final third. You have to be bossing people around and stepping and getting tight and clearing that out and then stepping your line and then taking those little opportunities to win the free kick, slow things down, combine it at point. And it just did not look comfortable at all.
Is that one of those things that when we put all this hype on this generation, is golden generation talented, and yet sometimes we say, but they don't look like the teams of the past. Is that one of those things that this team doesn't yet have that teams of the past in the United States used to have?
Yes, but this is such a circumstantial moment. It's 10 versus 11.
Yeah, I wouldn't
over an
judge it
hour.
on this.
Yes, it's so difficult. I know what you're saying.
Well, but you talk about
there's a sense
character.
of fight spirit.
Character finishes out a game when you're down a man, right?
Yes, but in today's game, being down a man for an hour is a massive, massive thing. You're a better. You like bets.
Allegedly.
If I were to
My
tell,
primo.
if I were to
The
tell you
cousin.
that the U.S. men's national team was going to play a game with a man
Oh,
down,
totally.
what would you bet?
Well, my cousin had some wagers on this game, and as soon as that red card happens, you know,
Out
he
the
wish he
window.
could have. Yeah.
So while I understand what you are saying, there is something to be said for that. This team, for as talented as they are, Case, your generation had some wins that they pulled out. They had no business winning.
For sure.
Spirit, fight, the moment, good play in the,
Chip on your shoulder.
whatever the case may be, you got that signature win.
Yeah.
My generation, this generation, you better hope you're playing Mexico. You better hope you're playing Mexico, because what else have you done?
Yeah.
What else have you done?
But I think it's a valid point. The point is saying it's not golden until you actually prove it. It's a potential of a golden generation. Now string some results together. Once again, what we were talking about before. Okay result against a very bad Bolivia. Terrible result against a Jamaica that you got bailed out on, and then reacted well against Mexico in the final. Yeah. Terrible game, particularly the last 15, 20 minutes against Colombia, to get embarrassed, and then you grind out an okay result, a good result against a not peaking Brazil.
Correct.
So you need to react. Okay, where was the reaction to, good result against Bolivia? Now it's like, okay, well, guess what? Now we got to see if they can react against a very good Uruguay, or it's an embarrassment.
And if the U.S. men's national team puts away the chances they had against Bolivia, this next
Goal
game
difference makes a huge difference.
is
well, and the draw kills them too.
And the draw.
And giving up the draw.
I feel like this is why we always feel this way about the U.S. men's national team. You get so excited that against an average Bolivia, they play well. They create chances. They look new. Like they have a spark, their new identity, they're all talk, and now they get to perform and show us what they've been working on and applying to the game. And then you get to this game and you're just ready to expect even better. And then a performance that they could build off of from the Bolivia game. And we're all sitting here waiting, and then something like that happens, and the red card happens. And this is why, as a fan and supporter, it's really difficult. And it's frustrating, I should say. It's
Kind of
frustrating.
one step forward, two steps back.
I do want to say it's very circumstantial. I mean,
True.
But it's
The
a
red card-
circumstance brought onto the team by the team itself.
correct. But just for a second, the red card happens. Okay, Tyler Adams is on a minute count. Matt Turner comes out injured.
Yeah.
You go to a back three. The most consistent players, like an Anthony Robinson's all of a sudden nervy.
What you're doing right now is you're listing off reasons/excuses. We had
Not
Juancho from Panama on the
fine,
other
but they had
day.
11 players.
He listed 6 guys that couldn't play.
Okay, that's fine.
And that's
6
Panama,
guys.
which is a totally different talent
But they
pool.
didn't play 6 versus 11. You have to respect Panama, because Panama, I don't care what anybody says, number 43 in the world, get a grip. It's a good Panama, well-coached Panamanian team, regardless of who they're missing, with a man up for over an hour. The team with the responsibility to get a result there is the Panamanian national team, not the U.S. men's national team. This is international football. They're a very good team. Do not disrespect this team. A man up for a whole hour, 76% possession, okay? They bossed this team around the way they should have a man up. So while I understand what you are saying, there's some truth to it. It's very, very different.
They did, but the U.S. should not have been bossed up that much by this team. That's my argument.
I saw this U.S. men's national team bossed up 11v11 in Panama.
Well, okay. But again, and that was a major criticism.
So why
and to
am I
Ali's
gonna
point,
think,
we're hoping that there's steps forward.
But what's the evidence to make me feel like this U.S. men's national team can overcome that?
Playing a man down, you're saying?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're waiting to see.
also,
And that's what
Laying
we're
a man
waiting
down is a
for.
crippling
We're
disadvantage.
waiting for those results.
Nobody's going to argue that, but it is what happened. It's a mistake brought on by the team.
The only
choice
thing that
to
gets
start
us excited,
Tyler Adams is a
the only thing that
decision
gets
of
us
the
excited
coach.
about this team is the player pool. That's the only thing that gets us excited about this
the
team.
maturity
It's the
isn't
player
just
pool.
on the field. It's also like mentally. Like you have to be mentally mature and mentally or emotionally mature on the field as well to be able to like sustain the success that you want.
Yep, and in these tournaments, one mistake can kill you, and that's the thing that looks like it may have happened to the United States on that Tim Weah red card. We'll see how the third group phase match pans out for the U.S. against Uruguay.